My next guest recently invited Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to a dinner so the Democratic Socialist could hear firsthand accounts of free market successes. Writing, quote, "Don't just see me as some wealthy guy defending the free market. Instead, see me as the son of a mother who dropped out of school in 8th grade, or the $800 that I had when I started my career." Sadly, AOC was a no-show for the dinner, but here now is Foster Friess, former CEO of the Friess Associates investment firm and former Republican candidate for governor of Wyoming, very successful businessman. Foster, welcome. Good to have you here tonight.
I'm very glad to be here, Martha. I'm sure AOC will eventually come to dinner. She did get the invitation, and it would have been an amazing night for her to see a different perspective that she probably hasn't had in her life experience so far. So the people at the meeting at the Horatio Alger were dynamic, upbeat, positive. The wives were delightful, and if their husbands are psychopath, they would have left them years ago.
Can you explain what you did to reach her? And do you think, did her office, were they aware of who you were when you called?
They did acknowledge that they received the invitation, and I believe it's important for us to kind of emphasize the key point of why I did it, and that is there's so much angst over income inequality, but with the American dream, you have to have income inequality. If you go from $800 to how I've been blessed, I did a lot of damage to income equality, but I've been able to do a lot of good things, and you look at some of the people there. Craig Barrett, for example, started very, very low, became the chief executive officer of Intel, and now he is very behind these basis schools, which teach science, technology, engineering, and math. They're the top 5 schools in America are basis schools. So the way we address income inequality is by helping those people on the lower rung get up and get them training and make them more successful. That's the ticket, not tearing down the wealthy.
Interesting. I want to play a soundbite from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about climate change. Here, let's play that.
The one thing that we cannot rebuke and the one thing that we cannot deny is that climate change is a problem of market failure and externalities in our economics. 40 years and free market solutions have not changed our position.
What do you say about that?
Well, I think she's quite young, and her fans are quite young. If you look at Richard Nixon, he introduced the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and if you look what's happened to the quality of our air and water since then, it keeps getting better and improving with a few exceptions, maybe in Flint, Michigan. But if you look at the Green Fund, we put $1 billion in. Russia, China, and India, the biggest polluters in the world by far, put in 0. The Pakistanis said this pollution problem is going to go on for another 30 years, then we'll think about doing something about it. So if you look at the kind of air quality we have, with maybe a few exceptions here and there, it's beat by Greenland and Iceland, but it beats all the European countries that were criticizing us. So climate change has been around for a while. I like Matt Bevin. A reporter asked him, "Where do you stand on climate change?" Matt, governor of Kentucky, said, "Do you like science?" He said, "Sure." Well, then you know the globe was covered by ice, quite a bit, almost a lot of it. Where did the ice go? So I think we've had 7 ice ages, and now we just have to educate the people about the reality of what true science is.
All right. Well, obviously, a lot of debate over climate change. I want to play this from Pete Buttigieg, who is the mayor of South Bend, who's also running on the Democratic side, or is about to announce. We understand he's in an exploratory phase. Here's what he said about capitalism.
Look, America is a capitalist society, but it's got to be democratic capitalism, and that part's really important, and it's slipping away from us. In other words, when capitalism comes into tension with democracy, which is more important to you? I believe democracy is more important.
What do you think he means by that, Foster?
What a joke. I mean, he should have been at that dinner also and saw over the 100 students that were Asian, black, every stripe. I mean, these young kids that got the scholarship because they went to great heights and succeeded in high school from unbelievable backgrounds, deprived backgrounds, homeless, many of them. And I think if he would have been there, he would have seen how the diversity of those folks and how they've achieved where they are today and where they're headed is phenomenal. phenomenal. So the whole idea that democracy somehow is slipping away from us is kind of something, maybe it's a political thing to get people stirred up, but it ain't happening.
Foster Friess, thank you very much, sir. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for coming on.